So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Topics at 12. This is our third in our weekly webinar series, and we are just really excited. We have had a great turnout and a great response. Today is about accounting, Alphabet Soup Part 2 with Paychex, which is hosted by our local rep, Kristina Gross. We are very thankful to our sponsors and our partners, the Small Business Center of Rockingham Community College, Team Reidsville, the Small Business Director of the Rockingham County Office, Adam Mark, and then the Chamber of Commerce. So thank you all for tuning in. Sorry about the technical difficulties today, but we were going to get started here right away. So Kristina, please take it away.
Hi guys, how are you? Diane, we are on the first page on employee wages, just so I can make sure that we are following the same, just because the video is just not working on my end.
Perfect. Macy's got it up and she'll follow along with you.
Okay, perfect. So there's been a lot of questions on what is 1099 versus W-2. So pretty much employee wages are generally work during a pay period. So you're receiving wages for their work during that pay period. So whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, semi-weekly, monthly, taxes are taken out of that. So you've got your federal income tax, your state income tax, Social Security, Medicare, and then other state taxes that are accommodated to your state. So for example, Paychex has a great resource center, and you don't have to be a Paychex client to access this. That goes state by state and the regulations and the requirements that are for those taxes. A lot of people in the smaller communities tend to like to put their employees on 1099s, not really knowing what a 1099 is. So it's my job to kind of educate you guys on that. So a W-2 employee is set by a company, consists of a fixed schedule, right? They're defined by a company and their training provide that period. They're assigned by the supervisor, workers, government by criteria, provided by a company and a single employee. So if you look at the chart, and it's a 1099 is more of a freelancer. They make up their own hours. Pretty much, if they want to come in on Monday, they're allowed to. W-2, you have a set schedule that is done by the employer. A lot of people get confused, and sorry, forgive me, I'm like a little tongue-tied today. At the end of the year, when we process our W-2s and 1099, is it the employer's job to process the 1099, or is it the employee? It's both. If your employee doesn't process their 1099, the employer can get a fine by the government if they don't process. So we always typically do a full evaluation of the company and find out what are the employee's job duties, and making sure that we're setting them up on the correct one, whether it's W-2 or 1099. So there's a lot of misclassifications that can result into financial penalties. So if you look, these include some reimbursement for wages that should be paid by the employee, like overtime, holidays, back taxes, penalties, or federal and state income taxes, Social Security and Medicare, and unemployment. I definitely say if you have questions about this, do speak to your local financial advisor, whether it's a CPA, if you have more questions regarding that. Other misclassifications are worker compensation benefits, providing employee benefits, including health insurance and retirement. We do, as a company, we make sure that we are taking care of all of the taxes on that end for you, so you're not having to worry about that. As a payroll company, we make sure that we handle all of the state and federal taxes for you, especially regarding your employees. The benefits of a W-2 are, one, company loyalty. Your employees are going to stay longer than jumping from job to job. You're going to have continuing ongoing support during busy pay period or during busy pay periods. So for example, as we're going through this pandemic, a lot of people have lost their jobs, or employees aren't wanting to come back due to unemployment. We assist with walking you through those processes and making sure you're legally taking the right action into knowing what you are allowed to do as a company. You're going to have a lot more control over it as well, being able to schedule, decide on when and how they're going to work. If you need something done a certain period of time, you have that control versus being a 1099. There are great benefits as a 1099 contractor as well. Typically, they're trained in their fields. Photographer, for example, they hit the ground with minimal training. They can focus on a specific project. So let's say temp to hire, they always do start off as a 1099, whether you want to hire them full-time or not, and they're expert in their industry. Expenses are not as much as a W-2 would, so contractors are not classified as an employee, so you don't have to withhold payroll taxes from their payments, and you don't have to offer any type of other benefits, insurance for them as well. The flexibility for them is a plus for them. They are hired for that specific job in a specific amount of time, which gives the business more flexibility in hiring and diminishing them. So challenges that a lot of companies face with W-2s is that, yes, there is a higher expense. You're not responsible for the employee wages, but you also do have to pay a share of their Social Security and Medicare tax. You also may have to provide them employee benefits depending on your industry. Resources that you are able to go to, obviously Paychex walks you through and directs you through this. If you are working with a local bookkeeper or CPA, they will be able to guide you, or we do team up. Paychex does work closely with firms to guide the business and the employees in the right direction. You're able to manage your employees, you train them, make sure they are committed to the job. Going into the challenges of the 1099, you have less control. So pretty much if they have done what they've needed to done, or they're not happy with the process, they're able to leave, meaning if they don't finish the project. Everything is on their terms. You can obviously draw up a contract and have it legally, professionally looked at by a lawyer on a 1099. Insurances are through contractors. You have to have some type of insurance for 1099, which would get specific with your industry. Otherwise, workers' comp insurance is covered. You can go through Drew on that. If it's something you want to look into as far as payroll with Paychex, we do cover that in being able to pool in rates, but we do work with a lot of brokers for companies and being able to provide them that service and making sure that they're having their hand pulled throughout that entire process. Let me know if I'm going too fast, Paying for liabilities as well. A lot of people do get confused with liabilities. Again, with the type of industry, you must pay your payroll liabilities. We do pull those reports and help you with those reports as well as a payroll company. It obviously goes by employees, their wages, depending on the frequency and the payment method. So direct deposit, sending premium contributions and garnishments, but you can't forget to pay with your payroll provider. For example, if you don't process your payroll through Paychex, we are not doing the payroll liabilities for you. Federal payroll tax liabilities, depositing them according to the IRS depositing schedule. Your deposit monthly, semi-weekly, depending on your previous payroll liability. We do pull from previous carriers and put them over into Paychex to making sure that all of the reports do match and your at the end of the year reporting is all good for your CPA to be able to process that at the end of the year. So most employers remit these liabilities using electronic federal tax payment system. So again, Paychex handles all of your state and federal taxes. We do the filing for you at the end of the year. We do send you the report so you can file that with your CPA or bookkeeper. So obviously talk to your CPA and making sure that that is something that you guys are able to keep track of. Another way to track liability is using payroll counting. So again, I preach accountants do like to do payroll, or at least the majority of the ones that we work with, when we switch somebody over from a firm, we technically are giving them more of HR that they may need with unemployment and being able to help them coverage with their employees. We do keep all the backlog data for you on that. If you are not using a payroll company, it is very important that you do keep all of your payroll related documents. This way that if something were to happen, your liabilities are covered and you're also meeting the deadline. We do say when you are with a bank that you do have a separate business banking account, to where you're able to keep those separate from your personal and making sure that you have the correct funds for that. Some of the best practices that we like to mention is making sure you have great record keeping. Again, a separate payroll bank account, making sure you have the cash to cover payroll costs, using a reliable payroll system. So for example, the Chambers has been with us for many, many years. Anytime that Diane may get an unemployment letter, she emails it to me and I send it off to our workers' comp, and making sure that that is taken care of. The majority of the time it's disregarded because we are taking on the liability for that. If she gets something from the IRS, we make sure that, again, she sends it to me or her internal payroll specialist, and we handle that on the back end, making sure that everything we've done correctly. If it's a mistake by the client, we walk you through that process. That is not something that you are doing by yourself. Your CPA will be able to help you and hold your hand. There are some payroll services that you are having to manually enter taxes in your federal and state, and it's very time consuming. Sometimes it doesn't match. And then you get that IRS letter with a nice little fine. I tell the majority of people, we handle that for you. So that's one less stress that you have to worry about for you and your business. That's pretty much it for me, Diane, if anybody has questions.
Okay, great. And I know that we were trying to kind of make up for the time that we were losing. We wanted to be cognizant of everybody's time. So I know that some of it is probably really quick for you guys. Like I said in the chat, the slides are going to be available. Kristina is always available. The playback will also be available. But we would love to take questions, comments, discussion. We have some great folks and resources on this call as well. So I am happy for anybody to direct Kristina back to a slide or back to questions that they may have.
I do also want to add, a lot of people, a lot of my clients, we've switched over from QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a great company. There's no business that's too small that we can't help. I have a lot of companies that are sole proprietors that have one employee that we handle everything for, just because they don't want to have to worry about getting that letter, or they don't want to have to worry about doing the reporting or having to do their state and federal taxes. Paychex is there is no binding document. Try it out. If you don't like it, you can always go back to what you're doing. But I can say in my 1.5 years working with Paychex and partnering up with all of our close accounting firms, I've had maybe one company left, and that's because they closed down through COVID-19. So no question, any type of questions you guys have, please ask, and I'll do my best to make sure I give you the correct response for it.
I think too, this is something that I feel really passionately about, and several of my members feel passionately about. And one person that we have with us here is J.R. Cecil, and he's with Liberty Tax, and he's been a great partner. And he was one of the reasons that we asked Kristina to do this presentation. As a tax preparer, he sees a lot of the W-2 versus 1099 issue. And also at the Chamber with our members, we see a lot of folks who struggle. And I'll be honest, the Chamber is a client of Paychex because we were struggling with payroll liabilities, trying to keep staff trained on the dates that things were due and record keeping. And it's very, very important. So this was we tried to keep it a minimum of information. But JR, do you like to add anything or kind of contribute to the conversation?
Yeah, so I really don't have a question, but I did want to reiterate that everything she said was spot on. We see so many times people are miscategorized as a contract worker where they should be on a W-2, and it not only causes a headache for the employee when they come in and file their taxes and they're expecting, break even, a little bit of a refund. If they're on a 1099 and they get zapped with all their Social Security and Medicare tax all at once, they owe a bunch of money and don't know why. They never had a conversation with their employer that their employer was treating them as a contract worker. They thought they worked there as a staff member. So it's very much a headache if it's done incorrectly, and it can come back on the business. If you treat all the waitresses in your restaurant as a contract worker, that is not the correct way to go. They show up when you tell them to. They're using your tools. They're working by your rules and wearing your uniform. They should be on a W-2. And you'll eventually get, the IRS will catch up with you, and you eventually get penalized and have to put them all on W-2 anyway. So it's very important to consult before you start hiring people the correct way to hire folks and to keep your records clean from the beginning. So even me as I'm in the accounting industry as a tax preparer. All of my folks, I use Paychex. I don't even do my own payroll. I use Paychex for my payroll services because they manage that headache for me. So Paychex is a great resource. So thanks for your time today, Kristina.
No, absolutely. And just to go a little bit more on what you're saying, I'm working with a company now that he's been in business for 10 plus years, and he has hired all new staff and put them all on 1099s. And as it was an accountant referral, and the accountant says, I just, with everything, all the deadlines coming up on the 15th, I don't have the time to educate him. Can you help him? And so as we're doing this assessment, not a day later did he get a nice IRS letter with a really hefty fine, and he's about to buy 6 more radio stations. And I said to him, I was like, but they're using your equipment. You're giving them hours because you're a radio show, right? So they need to be on W-2s. I know, these taxes sometimes stink. We don't all want to pay taxes. At the end of the day, we have to. And we were able to provide him resources and to showing him, like, if you continue to do this, you're going to end up losing your business altogether. So we really want to stress it that W-2s are the right way to go. Mostly like construction workers, they hire throughout 1099s, but they need to make sure that they're providing their own equipment and that they've got their own stuff that they're bringing.
So
the liability isn't on.
I'm sorry, Kristina. I thought you were finished.
No, it's okay. No, you're good.
Good answer. One of the questions was about 1099 contract workers and supplies, and I think you answered that. But also, just to say it in a different way, I think the biggest thing is there's actually like a checklist, and I'm sure Kristina could provide that I did, even as the chamber. So to JR's point, like sometimes when we're in the business of helping people, or we're in a business, but we're still, using the services, and we had to do a checklist about whether or not a contractor that we had, whether or not they were a contractor or a W-2. And there is a really fine line. A contract worker, they're project based. They provide their own services. They basically own their own business. So they, they are their own person. You were just paying them for a service. And there's kind of a checklist because there's a fine line sometimes between people, but you could do the checklist and see like if the person fits into that. That's one good way. The other question that was brought up was the comment about sharing the unemployment charge letter to the unemployment insurance company, being that there's no reason to charge the account, which was the response. And I think there's kind of 2 points to that I'd like to make. Kristina, she's asking about when you were talking about if I get a letter and I send it to you. So can you go back to that a little bit?
So pretty much, say lets you get an unemployment letter and it's telling you to go online and you have no idea what to do. Because as long as we're doing your workers' comp, we handle that for you. No, we don't go to court for you, but we walk you through that process. So for example, Diane got an unemployment letter. She's like, what is this? We look into it. We said, this means nothing. Disregard it. We're handling it on our end. So that's us taking over that liability for you. And especially when you guys have to do your audits at the end of the year, we help prepare all of this stuff for you, handle it for you, and then you just give it for the audit.
I would say, obviously, a lot of this information is relative to pay, but in general, for companies, the most important piece, as JR was saying, was like, be on the up and up from the beginning, and record keeping is very important. And that's one of the things I love about having a service do it for our company, is that we can log into the and grab any report, any paperwork, anything we need at any time. Because it's hard when the government sends you a letter and you don't understand what it is, and you're not sure if you legitimately are in the situation that they're saying you are, and you need to go back and backtrack. And I will be the first to tell you, the government makes mistakes. I have gotten letters regarding this or that, and it was not true. So you just need to, the biggest thing about payroll liabilities is whatever your system is, whether you're doing them yourself, whether you're paying a company, whether one of your staff people are doing it, is that it is very meticulous, and it is about doing it on time and keeping the records. And if you find yourself failing at that over and over, you should definitely look into a payroll service. And Paychex in particular, they have done a really great job with coronavirus and just anything to do with COVID and helping people. They've practically made their services free. They did an estimator, a payroll estimator for the PPP, and it was just amazing. JR used it. Kristina had given it to us on a previous call, and we've been able to send that to several people. So it's just a great resource to have when it comes to your legal issues surrounding some of these things, and as things keep changing, they've stayed on top of it, and it's been wonderful.
Well, because we've got a group of lawyers that are constantly, when all the changes happen, we're updating. So when they added the Flexibility Act in the 24 weeks and the percentage changes, we made sure to add that up to the estimator. I'll send you, Diane, the link for the COVID-19 Resource Center, where they give full webinars with legal team that say what's a 1099 versus a W-2 versus having to read stuff. So these webinars are great because it gives all of the information for that, and going by state to state guidelines and regulations, right? It's hard to keep up. All right, we definitely know we need the 3 W's. What else do I have to do to keep up to code with COVID-19 and reopening my business? We walk you through all of that process. So we're so much more than just a payroll company. We go into health and benefits, full HR, and I'm talking about HR like training, courses, OSHA, unemployment, where let's say an employee has to get fired. We walk you through that. You get an actual HR live person. Usually they've come to the business to do an assessment, but we're doing everything virtually right now, but they're assigned to you. So when you sign up with Paychex, you get me as the local rep, right? Then you get your internal payroll specialist who helps you through the back end of your Flex portal, which is what it's called. And then if you go more into the weeds of HR and health and benefits, you always have somebody walking you through this and holding your hand, and you're never having to call into a 1-800 number.
Well, we will, again, the slides will be available, and thank you, Missy. There is so she put the 1099 versus W-2 checklist in the article in the chat. And then also you can, I'm going to put my email in the chat. If you don't already have it, you can send me an email.
Sorry, not to cut you off. We are offering 3 months free payroll right now. So if you sign up, you're getting July, August, September, and then I'm pretty much giving 50% off the services after that to help with payroll expenses. That does include 2 months free of HR, which you get a live HR specialist.
Perfect. And so, folks, too, I was going to say I put my email in the chat, and that slide that was up had all the partners that you could contact. Susan is a sponsor for this, again, as I said, through the RCC Small Business Center, and they do one-on-one counseling as well. And we've been excited to partner with them on this entire webinar series. Next week's going to be on exit strategies for business. And again at noon next Thursday, and this is going to be discussing how entrepreneurs can transition out of their businesses depending on, you know, whether they have family or not to succeed behind them. So they're going to talk a lot about family, third parties, liquidation of assets, and they're going to cover the different pieces of that. So that's going to be with Andrew Santulli, and he is another local expert and resource for us, so we're excited to have him. If anybody has any additional questions, you can contact Kristina or, again, any of the resources. JR, thank you for that. A little piece that you added as well. We always value your input. So the employers, this is very valuable information, and we are glad that we were able to bring this to you today. So if no one else has anything, that will be it for today.